Saygıdeğer misafirler, kıymetli hazırun, öncelikle hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. SETA, Siyaset Ekonomi Toplum Araştırmaları Vakfı adına hoş geldiniz diyorum. Bugün aramızda dost ve müttefik Malezya'nın Müstakbel Başbakanı Anwar İbrahim Bey bizimle beraber. Daha önce SETA'da yüksek düzeyli siyasetçilerin bizlerle konferansları olmuştu. Bugün de bu serinin bir devamı olarak çok kıymetli bir misafirimiz var. Ben sözü uzatmadan mikrofonu SETA Genel Koordinatörü Burhanettin Duran Bey'e vermek istiyorum. Kendisi size bir selamlama konuşması yapacak. Buyurunuz hocam.
Sevgili katılımcılar, hoş geldiniz. Bugün SETA'da çok önemli bir misafiri ağırlıyoruz. Malezya'nın Müstakbel Başbakanı Anwar İbrahim Beyefendi bizimle beraberler. Kendileri Cumhurbaşkanımızın daveti üzerine Türkiye'ye geldiler ve teşekkür ederiz. Bizim davetimize icabetle SETA'da sizlerle görüşlerini paylaşmayı kabul ettiler. Kendisi İslam Dünyasının Geleceği ve Malezya'nın Demokratik Dönüşümüyle ilgili olarak bir konuşma yapacaklar. Ben kendisinin konuşmasından önce aynı konularla ilgili bir miktar görüşlerimi paylaşmak istiyorum. Çünkü Asya'nın iki ucunda, bir yanında Türkiye, bir yanında Malezya, İslam dünyası için çok önemli bir tecrübeye işaret ediyor. Bu vesileyle kendilerinin geliş tarihi de Türkiye'nin çok kritik bir seçiminin, yani 24 Haziran seçimlerinin olduğu bir döneme rastladı. Bu da sanıyorum karşılıklı olarak Türkiye ve Malezya'nın neler yaşadığı ve nereye doğru gideceği, dünyaya ilişkin olarak perspektifinin ne olduğu konusunda bir görüş alışverişini de gerekli kılmakta, faydalı kılmakta. Tabii Gençlik Hareketi Başkanlığından başlayarak uzun bir mücadele yürüten Anwar İbrahim'in Malezya tecrübesi hakkında söyleyecek çok sözü var. Ben de görüşlerimi biraz Türkiye özelinde ifade etmek istiyorum. Dünyanın gidişatı belirsizliklerin arttığı ve ekonomik milliyetçiliğin de yükseldiği bir yere doğru. Açıkçası Başkan Trump'ın, Amerika'nın küresel sorumluluklarını yeniden tanımladığı dünya birçok belirsizliğe gebe. Bu sadece Amerika'nın Çin'le, Asya ülkeleriyle ya da komşusu Meksika ile, Kanada ile değil, Avrupa ile de olan ilişkilerini dönüştürüyor ve bir takım krizleri de beraberinde getiriyor. Böyle bir dünyanın zaten krizlerle ve çatışmalarla uzun bir süredir uğraşan Orta Doğu'ya çok da olumlu yansıyacağını beklemememiz gerekir. Bu zorluklar Türkiye'nin 2013'ten itibaren kendi etrafında yaşamış olduğu belirsizliklerle ve onun getirdiği sorunlarla uğraştığı gerçeğini de hatırlarsak mücadelenin güçlü yapılması gerekiyor ve hem devlet kurumlarının etkili çalışabilmesi hem de demokrasinin yerleşebilmesi için Türkiye'nin de ciddi bir mücadele içerisinde olduğunu görüyoruz. İslam dünyasının sorunları açısından baktığımızda bu sorunlar hiç de kolay değil ve işte Orta Doğu'da en önemli meselelerden birisi olarak Filistin meselesi yeniden öne çıkmaya başladı. Amerika'nın İsrail'le kurduğu yakın ilişkinin İsrail'i çözümün parçası değil, artık sorunun tümüyle asıl parçası haline getiren son gelişmeler, Türkiye'nin kararlı çıkışı, İslam İşbirliği Teşkilatı'nın Birleşmiş Milletler Genel Kurulu'nda verdiği kararlı mücadele bir şeyleri ifade ediyor doğrusu. Ancak bunun bir sonuç getirmesi o kadar kolay olmayacak. Çünkü bunun arkasında Amerika'nın olması meselelerin Orta Doğu'da devam edeceğini gösteriyor. Zaten Suriye'deki iç savaşın ve Irak'taki karışıklığın devam ettiği bir dönemdeyiz. Yine İran'a karşı bir bloğun oluştuğu bir bölgemiz söz konusu. Amerika, Suudi Arabistan, İsrail, Birleşik Arap Emirlikleri hattında yeni bir bloklaşmanın ortaya çıktığını görüyoruz. Böyle bir bölgede Türkiye'nin hem kendi milli menfaatlerini korumak ama bir taraftan da bölgenin sorunlarına çözüm bulmak için ciddi bir mücadele verdiği aşikar. Türkiye'nin seçimleri işte böyle kritik bir zamanda gerçekleşiyor ve bu mücadeleyi vermek, bu sorunlara çözüm arama çabasını devam ettirmek için Türkiye'nin yeni bir sisteme geçmesi ve daha doğrusu geçme kararının verdiği sistemi kurumsallaştırması gerekiyor. Bu da 24 Haziran seçimleriyle gerçekleşecek. Bütün bu İslam dünyası ve etrafımızdaki bölgenin sorunları açısından baktığımızda ister küresel adaletsizlikler olsun, ister çatışma bölgelerinin sürekli Müslüman dünyada olması, Orta Doğu'da olması söz konusu edilsin. Cumhurbaşkanı Erdoğan'ın güçlü bir liderlik ortaya koyduğunu görüyoruz. Türkiye'nin hem dünyaya söyleyecek sözü var, dünya 5'ten büyüktür mottosuyla ortaya koyulan misyon bunu gösteriyor. Hem de mülteciler başta olmak üzere, insani kalkınma yardımları başta olmak üzere Türkiye'nin yeni bir düzenin kurulması, adaletin sağlanması ile ilgili önemli bir noktada durduğunu görüyoruz. Sayın Anwar İbrahim'in de Anadolu Ajansı'na verdiği mülakatta ifade ettiği üzere bugün İslam dünyasının en etkili lideri, İslam dünyasının sorunlarına en fazla sahip çıkan lider kuşkusuz Recep Tayyip Erdoğan'dır. Biz ümit ediyoruz ki İslam dünyası bu Türkiye'nin mücadelesiyle birlikte bir takım meselelerini daha iyi fark eder ve sorunlarının çözümüyle ilgili olarak hem dünya ile entegre olmada hem de kararlılıkla onurlu dış politikasını ortaya koymada, gerektiğinde otonomisini ortaya koymada bir örneklik teşkil eder. Ben burada Malezya'nın da çok önemli bir rol üstlendiğini düşünüyorum. Çünkü Malezya ekonomik kalkınmasıyla, dünya ile entegrasyonuyla, Müslümanlara yönelik algının kırılmasında, olumsuz algının kırılmasında çok söyleyecek sözü olan bir ülke. Asya'nın diğer ucunda hem ekonomik milliyetçiliğin getireceği belirsizliklere hem İslamofobi gibi Müslüman dünyaya yönelik algıların kırılmasında çok önemli bir ülke ve Sayın Anwar İbrahim Bey'in Malezya Başbakanı olduğu dönemden itibaren bu yönde büyük katkılar sağlayacağı kanaatindeyim. Ben sözlerimi daha fazla uzatmayayım. Asıl konuğumuz Anwar İbrahim Bey'in görüşleriyle sizi baş başa bırakmak istiyorum. Çok teşekkür ederim.
SETA Genel Koordinatörü Burhanettin Duran Bey'e çok teşekkür ediyoruz. I would like to first shortly introduce His Excellency Mr. Anwar Ibrahim. Mr. Anwar Ibrahim is a prominent Malaysian politician who served as Deputy Prime Minister from 1993 to 1998 and Finance Minister from 91 to 98. Since 1998, he has led Malaysia's Justice Party in its mission to strengthen democracy and the rule of law in the country. Although he spent over 10 years in detention as political prisoner, his party achieved a historical electoral victory in the May 2018 Malaysian elections, shattering the ruling party's 61 years hold on power. He was released from jail days after the election and granted a full pardon from politically motivated trumped-up charges. The new government has indicated that Mr. Anwar Ibrahim is the Prime Minister in waiting, and he is expected to take over the premiership of the country within the next 2 years. So I would like to invite His Excellency Mr. Anwar Ibrahim to the floor. The floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good morning, afternoon. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Excellencies, brothers and sisters, I am of course extremely delighted to be here. Last month I was in the prison cell, and now I'm hosted by my brothers and sisters. You cannot imagine how excited and happy I am to be here in this great country and with great people who have an extremely, which I believe in all honesty, a great future for the Muslim world and the world at large. Of course, I am invited by President Tayyip Erdogan. Why? This is close to the elections. A lot of questions were raised. Why must Anwar be involved in domestic politics of Turkey? Let me explain this. In 2015, February 10th, I was incarcerated, put again in jail. I spent most of my life either in jail or in court or on stage giving speeches. Nothing in between. Now, a month later, President Tayyip invited my wife Aziza, my daughter Nurul Aizah, and my son-in-law to visit him. Mind you, not many president, king, or prime ministers in the world would do that. They think I'm finished. Anwar is in jail. He will not be able to contest in the elections. He is history. But he is a man who is a brother, who is a friend. Who is a friend in difficulty, a friend who was successful. So he invited and told Aziza in a very emotional exchange that Anwar should have listened to me, stay here in Turkey as our guest, don't go back because this nasty government will put him in jail again. And at that time I spent nearly 7 years in jail, now total 10.5. Not bad experience. But when I met Mandela, Mandela invited me after the first release, 6 years in jail. He was, looking very sad. Anwar, I know how difficult it is. But I said, Madiba, no problem. Mine was a short walk to freedom. At that time, 6 years, and Mandela was 27. I didn't know I was going to be put in prison again for another 3.5 years. But anyway, back to President Tayyip. What did he say to Aziza? Okay, it's done. But promise me, you tell Anwar when he's in prison, promise me, the moment he comes out from prison, please come to visit us who treat him as a brother, a family member. So I come on that basis. It happens to be close to the elections. Fair. That's it. So that I want to clear this so that there's no, there is politics. You can always give interpretation. I don't care. I've served enough time in prison. I choose to speak up my mind. I understand the word freedom of conscience. And what do I learn in these 10.5 years in prison? The value of freedom, the meaning of justice, the meaning of friendship, brotherhood, and sisterhood. So I will be very frank with you today. What is the future for the Muslim world? Is gloom and despair. It's interesting. These 2 words, or 3 words, gloom and despair, were articulated both by my friend, the former Vice President of America, Al Gore, whom I met soon after the elections, after I was free, and by Sheikh Yusuf Al-Akharadawi, who called me and said, Anwar, these were years of gloom and despair. And Al Gore said, you know, the Muslim world, when it comes to democratic reform or democratic accountability, is all gloom and despair. But suddenly, we saw this light, shocking, surprised, many of us, unprecedented. What happened in Malaysia, majority Muslim country, committed to Islam as the religion of the federation, but worked extremely well with the Christians, Buddhists, Sikh, Hindus, and enemies. I want to emphasize that part because I know many of our friends in Turkey, the extreme secularists, would say that, you know, Malaysia and Anwar is an extremist Islam, closet Islamist, etc., etc. I welcome them to have an exchange. But I'm telling you, in the elections, in 2013, we had 52% of the popular vote, and a vast majority of Hindus and Christians and Buddhists and enemies supported me, my party, and my coalition, which would debunk that misperception, prejudice, the fact that we represent that exclusive, extreme view of Islam. In the last elections, in 2018, which created another shock, there are few issues. Firstly, okay, with the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We never forget that. I always remind our brothers who are excited, we have the best strategy, we have the best resources, we have the best media team. I always remember, say, فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. You must always have faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah loves those who have faith in Him. But of course, we trust in the wisdom of the people. Never underestimate the wisdom of the people. Not only the elite and the super elite who thinks they can dictate the state of the world. We need them, yes. But also the common masses who have the wisdom, if given the correct choices. And alhamdulillah, that happened. Secondly, it's hard work. It's not 2 months, 3 months before the elections. It's not Anwar or Mahathir or some other leaders. It's 20 years of struggle, in and out of jail, many beaten, injured, some had to struggle on their own, deprived of jobs, etc. But they struggle because they have faith in the values of freedom, democracy, and ridding the country of endemic corruption and abuse of power. Third, forgiveness and compassion. Sheikh Hardawi wrote a long letter to me saying that, I mean, you are prepared to forgive what you have endured, not only me, but Aziza, my wife, who happens to be my boss now. She's Deputy Prime Minister. I'm just an ordinary citizen. I refuse to take any position in government or any job. So I'm just Anwar, a citizen of Malaysia. Now, but when any official function, I remember the king also laughed, and Mahathir also was tickled because they announced the arrival of Right Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, Dr. Wan Azizah Ismail, accompanied by his spouse, her spouse, Anwar Ibrahim. So that's my status now, a good spouse. Now, but the third point is also important. There is a willingness to forgive. I told my brothers and sisters when I started work and trying to learn, because I studied, grew up from an elite English public school in Malaysia, patterned on the Eton of the East, the Malay College. And everything was English and proper and prompt. But when I started learning Islam, I remember a short hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, about love, about compassion, about preparedness to forgive a good cause. Irhamu man fil ard, yarhamkum man fis sama. If you show compassion and love for those on earth, Muslims, non-Muslims, human beings, animals, plants, and the earth, then those in the heavens will shower mercy and affection on you. I mean, it's a simple hadith. Everybody can recite. When it comes to forgiving, my word, your stuff. I'm not mincing words. I'm not saying this because I think politically it is correct to say, I'm saying to forgive what I had to endure, 6 years of imprisonment, being beaten, assaulted to near death, injuring my back, wasn't easy. But I thank Allah it did happen. When Mahathir first appeared, wanted to see me, I said, thank you very much, I forgive. But I was not keen. Why do I need to meet him? But then when he insisted, he came to court because we can't visit, no visitors in prison except my wife and my children. He came to court and discussed. It was very painful. My children cried, cannot understand why their papa have to work with this man. But when Mahathir explained, he said it was a mistake. He said, I should not have sacked you. We have a problem now with the Prime Minister, Najib. The country is now not performing economically. People are facing hardships. Corruption becomes a culture. Yes, I was polite. I said, no. In my heart, I said, never mind, go away. Let me just stay in prison peacefully. Don't disturb me. That was what I said in my heart. But of course, I said to him, thank you. I'll think about it. But then he then showed his consistency. I gave support only on one condition. Not because Anwar's released. No. He supports the institutional reform that Professor Burhanettin mentioned, that transition to strengthen institutional reform is very critical in a democracy. Judiciary, the media, enforcement authorities, economic policies that propel growth but ensure equality of opportunities to those, the poor. That attracted me. Then we went along, and of course we won, alhamdulillah, and Mahathir is now Prime Minister. And I said to him, you carry on, sir. I want to relax and visit my friends, work with the team. I will support you, even if on a few issues I disagree. I can't agree 100% with his views or his position. But the major policies are supported. That the country must be able to strengthen institutions of governance and move towards reform. Islah mastata', reform for the good as much as you can. There was the Quranic verse I read just now. So that's it now. When do I assume premiership? I say, you just go on. He is now close to 93. So I said, take your time, do what is necessary. Then soon when you are ready, I'm ready, I will assume the premiership. That's it in terms of the transition in Malaysia. But what's important in what Burhanettin Duran said is the need to transform into an institution of democracy. You can't duplicate our experience to other countries. It's true. We have different arrangements. But democracy, I mean, I prefer the use. I mean, Fukuyama actually popularized this term. I mean, not the old Fukuyama, but the new Fukuyama in these writings. He used the term democratic accountability, which is proper. Because democracy can also be abused. We fight against corruption, but you know K Street in Washington, D.C., you find institutionalized corruption. I was heading the World Accountability outfit some years back, before I was in prison, London outfit, where I wrote at that time to the Prime Minister of the UK, in the procurement of defense, there were billions of dollars of commission. But commission is permissible, corruption is haram. Is, mind you, a bloody rotten explanation to defend corruption. Now, so institutions have to be strong. And then for a government to propel economy is necessary. People ask me, of course, as I said, and rightly the chairman said just now, that I've been often asked about the Turkish experience, which attracted me for a number of reasons. I mean, from Indonesia to Pakistan to India, every time I speak, the moment I mention Tayyip Erdogan, they see him as the sole voice of reason and courage in the Muslim world. You agree or you disagree politically is a different issue. But this is one person who have the courage to speak out against the atrocities against the Palestinians, or even the far back as Rohingyas. Thousands of Muslims being ill-treated, despised, and chased out from their countries. Not many countries have the courage to tell the Myanmar junta government to do anything. And President sent Sister Amina to go and then highlighted that issue. Now, brothers and sisters, to the Muslim public, they want that. In this hour of despair, as I said, when Al Gore Qaddafi said, we have to allow this opportunity not to be lost. The West should not dictate. I am fortunate because I continue the engagement with the West. I went to the UK as just an ordinary citizen. I met the former Prime Minister Cameron. I met Boris Johnson, the Mayor, etc. I'm okay. I have no qualms about it. But I do not want my country or myself to be dictated by the Western agenda or the Eastern agenda, not by the Chinese, not by the Americans, but not by the UK. It is Malaysians who might decide the determine of future of Malaysia, as it should be the people of Turkey who should decide the future of Turkey, not the West and their liberal agenda. This is, to me, very important. But notwithstanding the criticisms of Turkey, I will address a few issues, because people should not misunderstand me. I've been saying this for the last 7-8 years. In Parliament, when we talk about educational reform, I look at the detail. The Finance Minister has to give me an update what happened in terms of the educational opportunities here, the transformation that have taken place. In public health, Tayyip Erdogan had some sickness. He was unwell. Then, soon after he recovered, started working, he said, Anwar, can you please come? I want to have a chat. So I came. I came here, met him, I said, Alhamdulillah, you're well, good for you, etc., etc. Then I said, then he said, you know, one thing I learned in the hospital. At that time I was Prime Minister. I'm Prime Minister. You know, as Prime Minister, you get the best doctors, the best facilities, the best treatment, probably the most beautiful nurses. He didn't say that, I added that. But now I think, what about the villages? What about the outskirts of Istanbul and the villages in Anatolia? Do they get that treatment? So I said to him, of course not. He said, that's why we are wrong. So what do we do? He said, I am now directed, my Minister of Finance, he said, to make sure that we build quality hospitals for our people in every small city in Turkey. But I said, it's going to cost a lot of money. But I said, that's a problem of my finance minister, not my problem. He was joking with me, of course. So the following day, I met, of course, the Minister of Finance, who then wanted me to share the problem and how to deal with it. And I, of course, have to pretend like a good consultant to advise him on a few things. But what did strike me is I've met so many kings and presidents and prime ministers and dignitaries and conglomerates and big businessmen. I have not heard anyone telling me, after getting that treatment, to say that, you know, Alhamdulillah, I've got that treatment. But Wallahi al-Azim, I dread to imagine how my people in the rural areas, in the poor outskirts of Istanbul or other cities can get such a treatment. Now, he may have some mistakes, he may have delay, he may have problems in implementing them. I don't know. I don't have expertise in everything. But I can tell you that element of humanitarian concern strikes me and cause me to love him dearly as a brother. But there are many other cases like that. In education, I told them, because we in Malaysia, among developing world, it's a great economy. I was 8 years Minister of Finance, you know, and I was very conservative. No increase in toll, no increase in taxes. I mean, it was tough, but no waste, very strong public expenditure. But I have always this anxiety when my policies will affect the poor. That part I cannot compromise. So I have big issues fighting the Malaysian government at that time, because I thought they think, you know, you can impress the financial analysts, the rating agencies, by having correct strategies. What are correct strategies? A policy that would attract foreign investments. I agree. A policy conducive, lower taxation for the big businesses. I agree to an extent. Do they care whether there is growing gap between the rich and the poor? No. Do they care whether those in the outskirts and the poor and the marginalized are given good amenities in health and education? No. They care about attractiveness as a foreign destination for investments. That I differ. Because to me, economics must be adl, and ihsan. Must be always categorized in that justice and compassion. We should propel economic growth, yes. Modern banking, modern technology, all for that. So I think that I would like to share with you, because the future of the Muslim world has got to be one, strengthening the institutions of governance, which happens to be the commitment here now, post-elections. People say, incidentally, this was asked for me, a big issue in London. I said, look, I am not a Turk. I'm not a member of ARC party. Why do you ask me all these questions? But they said, because you are a friend of Tayyip Erdogan, you tend to support some of their policies. I said, yes. I said, then what about the arrest? What about the actions against after the coup? I said, look, people's lives were lost in an attempt to kill leaders. There are few circumstances that was different. They were asked, and I asked myself, if when I assume premiership, and there's an attempted coup wanting me to be killed, my friends killed. I remember Errol, my good friend, who lost his son during that coup in 2016, 16. I was in jail, mind you, I was in jail. I told the president, I had a long chat this morning. I said, I was in prison, and then the prison officer told me, because they still call me with honorific title of respect, but and I would say just Anwar, there is coup, there is military has taken over, and I said, are you sure? Yes, there was an announcement, because the West was glowing with happiness. I said, I was distraught. I said, what do? I don't have no television, no radio, no newspapers, and the family was not able to come and see me at that time. So I just prayed, read the Quran, and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for the safety of my brothers and sisters, and the safety for this great country. I think only 4 days later, when Azizah came, speaking over the phone with his glass, crying, and said, Alhamdulillah, the president and his family, Amina and family is safe, and the country is back to freedom, and but your friend's son, Errol's son, died in the skirmishes. So she was crying. She told me that. Alhamdulillah, I said, okay, it's partly over, but I want to share with you, if I'm a great Democrat, I don't compromise, I tell you, on the issue of freedom. Don't come and teach me or give me 200 million or 20 billion. I don't care a damn about your money, because I suffered immensely and I will not compromise. Neither would I compromise what I believe in what I say. Yes, but if there is this attempt that the whole country, there was a fifth column, there was an attempt to sabotage the democracy and democratic process, mind you, like the terrorist cells, I will not compromise. I can only lead if I'm an effective leader. I can only lead if we do not condone, protect the purveyors and perpetrators of violence and sabotage. So there is a difference. I take it with a pinch of salt for those who have said that to the contrary. I mean, I've argued with our friends in the West who have not experienced coup d'etats, like in Germany, who dismissed 500,000 workers or staff, but never attacked the way Turkey is attacked. Mind you, I am a Democrat, I believe in the free media. By all means, criticize President Tayyip Erdogan. By all means, criticize the policy of our party, or the government, or the opposition. But be consistent. Why do you protect the excesses in Germany when they can sack 500,000 people? Why are we soft on what Trump is doing with the immigrants? Why are we soft to the atrocities in other countries? Other Muslim countries whom you consider great friends because of the money of their wealth, but you condone the excesses. I thank again SETA for giving me this opportunity, and I'm sorry if I've seemed to be a bit personal in this. Yes, I can't help. I'm a human being. I've been in prison far too long. And I've learned one thing, I do not compromise on what I say. You know, I was joking with Dr. Mahathir before I came here. I told him I'm going to Turkey. And of course, he had conveyed some message and salams to President Tayyip Erdogan. But I said one thing, I said, you did the right thing, sir, to Prime Minister Mahathir, because I was serving under him. Minister of Culture, Youth and Sports, Agriculture, Education, Finance, Deputy Prime Minister. He has never made me Foreign Minister. You know why? I'm not a great diplomat. I say what I believe, and I pay a big price for what I said. You see? They say, Malaysia, was there freedom? Yes, a freedom of speech, but not freedom after speech. So thank you very much, Shakur.
Thank you very much, His Excellency Anwar Ibrahim. Now I would like to open the floor for your questions, and I also urge you to ask your questions very short, so that we can have more questions.
Ahmed Rabi' al-Sharq. In former Prime Minister Najib Razak's case, it turned out the involvement of some regional states, Gulf states, in this case. How did you see this involvement? And as an expected Prime Minister, how would you deal with this regional attempts to affect the future of Malaysia? Thank you.
Let me explain the background. This is that the Najib, the Razak, squandered the funds. Now we have evidence, the Department of Justice, United States of America report, what happened in Singapore and Switzerland, Attorney General's report about the abuses, billions taken, the most expensive yacht in the world, 200, the ladies would love this, the 280 Birkin Hermes bags, which cost about $70,000 per bag. I think I can sell back to you some of them. With all this, but how did some of our friends, neighboring countries, were they involved? Now, Dr. Mahathir, as Prime Minister, said we will have to relook at some of the arrangements and negotiations. So we have to relook some negotiations with Singapore and mainly the Chinese in China. We, of course, would attract investments from China or Russia or India or America or Germany. I mean, I don't believe Malaysia can succeed without attracting investments. But what happened under Najib was almost a total dependence on China in some of the major infrastructure works. And we have now evidence that all the price was inflated far too high. So we said to the Chinese, yes, we want to work with you, we want to cooperate with you, but we have to renegotiate. Jack Ma, of course, the owner of Alibaba, who was very, very close with Najib in all these dealings, came and met Prime Minister Prime Minister Mahathir last few days to reassure that this arrangement can be done. So I hope for the future it could happen. But one lesson we can learn is that neighbors are not necessarily reliable in these things. It's important, not only for Malaysia, but also for Turkey. The neighbors must learn to appreciate friendship and honor some commitment and follow certain ground rules. You don't go and usurp the country through fifth column to support to some groups that destabilize. Let them fight it out. I mean, it's a democracy. Let them fight it out and let the people decide. Thank you.
Okay, another question. We have one here.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dr. Mustafa Omar Muhammad, the International Islamic University of Malaysia. After seeing Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim for the last 20 years, when he was the president of IIUM, my memory is still fresh on how we had been working together. And I remember incidents where he was trying to help Turkish students. And at that time, I think it was very difficult for those studying at the International Islamic University to get jobs in Turkey, particularly in public offices. And I think he struggled really very hard. Maybe it would be interesting to share some of those experiences that you had and being the founder of the International Islamic University of Malaysia. Thank you.
Well, this was about almost 30 years ago. You know, we set up the International Islamic University, economics, later on, of course, medical. We had, I invited one scholar, Abu Hamid Abu Sulaiman, to be rector, and we rebuilt that as the premier institution in the region. But we found out that some countries we had difficulty. We had difficulty to bring Chinese students from China and students from Turkey. I was amazed. Why? They want to study economics. No, but it's Islamic university. So I had then to take a lot of efforts. You know, sometimes people say secularism is liberal. No. secularists can be illiberal. They can only agree with you if you are secular, but you are truly liberal. Like me, I work. In my team, there are secularists. In my party, of course Muslim-led, but there were Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, enemies who were secular. The most remote area in Malaysia is called Puncak Borneo in Sarawak. Majority of whom are enemies and Dayaks of the tribal faction. And they voted for us, and they won. So I think this sort of inclusiveness is important. But some of them are secular. I said, okay. But they tolerate us as we tolerate them. I said, I will not agree any Islamic institutions or law that will impose on the rights of non-Muslims. No, I disagree. And if any ambiguity, you want to apply aspects of the Sharia that affect the position of non-Muslims, the non-Muslim must have a right to negotiate, discuss, and debate. I mean, that principle is there. But you know, some of the hardline secularists are so illiberal, they reject me because, no, he's a Muslim. But I think this is absurd. And this is also the debate here, and also in Pakistan. I mean, of course, there are Muslims who are illiberal. There are so-called Islamists who think you don't have a beard, you don't qualify to be a leader. See? So the Islam is in the beard. which is, to my mind, is amazing. But what is important is the tolerance. That time I learned the intolerance here is unspeakable. I mean, students wanted to study. And you say no, because they happen to be, they are not sure that this may be an indoctrination of Islam. You see? You can go to America and indoctrinate with liberal ideas, is okay. You can study even in Moscow, indoctrinate with communism, is okay. But not with Islam. This illiberalism is not fair, not right. Students who study in Russia, they can. I don't have any inhibition with that. But if they are Muslims, I would say, look, better have understanding with Islam, better proper salat and respect the rights of others and value the importance of religion. But in my experience, thank you, brother, for remembering that, because I remember that and that actually disturbs me a lot. I mean, okay, you can fight with the Islamic Party, whatever. This is an internal domestic battle. But you can't stop people from studying. I don't want to exaggerate. I played a small role in this. There are many others who did. But I want to tell you this. The battle is not only against the extremists, Islamists. The battle is also against Islamophobia. And Islamophobia is not only a problem in the capitals of the West, but also among Muslim elites in Muslim societies. I can say this based on my experience. Even to allow students from Turkey to study was a major problem, and when they come back, no one was prepared to even recognize them. Is in English, the quality of education at that time at least was respectable, acceptable to the West. The best institutions in the West will accept. They even have a working knowledge of Arabic. But here, they're completely denied of their right. So I think it's not only a question of an experience that we had in Malaysia, but a matter of attitude. So illiberal. I mean, I might say in the party, we have not only non-Muslims, but I said, what you have here, there are Muslim candidates we have, who have scarf or no scarf. I can encourage, but it's their decision. I don't think we should compel people to accept your way of thinking to the extreme. So that position is very important. I'm sorry, I have very strong views against so-called liberals who are very illiberal in their thinking. The liberals must only conform to certain ideas. Certainly this goes against a strain of liberalism that I studied in Western philosophy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very short, please.
Thank you. Yeah. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sri. Thank you. I'm Dr. Burhan Zaiti, actually. If you are like come to power like a few months ago, maybe I'm still in Malaysia. Just because of the previous government, actually, we left from Malaysia, unfortunately. As you mentioned just now, because of the Chinese investment, actually, is the previous and the government, they tried to sell back the Uyghurs, actually, to China, actually. I'm professor, I'm academician, I'm nothing to do with politics, but the previous government actually let the Chinese police even come to the land of Malaysia to disturb all these Uyghurs as well, actually. Most of them studying and also doing just like me and contributing for Islamic finance. I'm actually associate professor in Islamic finance in the UIA. Just because of that, I left from the country just a few months ago, actually. And also a few days ago, we talked to another friend here is Uyghur. We also saying that if you come to the power, what we are doing here, we should stay back in Malaysia, actually. That's main reason we left from Malaysia, actually. What I want to say is request from you, actually, try to protect some Uyghur students in Malaysia. And also there are some of them is in prison right now. I hope that you can take care of them, Mr. Prof. Thank you.
Of course, Uyghur problem is quite a major problem. Not many Muslim countries have the courage to do anything. I understand the ones arrested and kept in Malaysia and how the Turkish government has taken initiative to help. I tell you, for those who have suffered, and I can understand and appreciate this because no country wants to do that. But for those who are not involved, no evidence of your involvement in any terrorist activities there in China or whatever, of course we have to protect them. And I think the new government have that position. Of course, we cannot be seen or perceived to have any evidence of supporting some activities that is violent in nature. But if they are peaceful, they are academics, they are professionals, it is our duty to protect their rights.
Okay, there were one there in the middle. Yeah. Okay, we will have another one here and then.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. And first of all, congratulations for your release. That's what we call in Malay tahniah. I have two questions and one request. And you are the author of the book that is called as the Asian Renaissance. You were always a person who believed in the need for political reforms when needed. And as we know, Malaysia and Turkey has always been the backbones and representatives of the Islamic world. And do you believe that Islamic world are in dire need of political reforms or reforms of any kinds? And what kind of reforms can be actualized regarding the future of the Islamic world? That's one question. And the second question is, as the Prime Minister in the making, what kind of policies will you pursue differently for the future of the Islamic world in your foreign policy? As we know, Mahathir Mohamad engaged in Asian regionalism, and he was always actively involved in third world activism. That's the only thing I want to know. And my request is, I'm a student in, I'm a postgraduate student in Asian Studies Department at Bosch University, and I personally involved in your political career, and I'm trying to explain it, you know, in academic journals, in everywhere. I want to clarify a little bit. I want to clarify your story, your struggles, especially the political struggles or experiences you went through. And I want to conduct an interview with you. I have 13 questions. I brought it with me. And if it's possible for you, please, I request you to conduct an interview with me if it's proper for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I'm growing old and I don't mind a pretty researcher coming and asking me questions. But no, thank you very much. I personally appreciate that, although I think not done that much to be able to be a subject of research. People ask me, do I write my autobiography? No. I write about ideas, what I think should be done. I don't spend time in prison writing about, you know, my personal experiences and things like that, because I'm not Mandela or Gandhi. Now, yeah, I wrote the Asian Renaissance in the 90s, the Nahdah, because I thought that in the Muslim world or in developing economies, we should pride ourselves with economic advancement, but we cannot pride ourselves if there's abject poverty, endemic corruption, and growing inequality. This was long before Piketty talks about inequality, because that was a central issue. I was finance minister. Of course, they praised me as the best finance minister of Asia, etc. At that time, it was a great achievement. Everybody was happy. And the World Bank produced a report, the East Asian Economic Miracle. I say, fair, it's good, there's good stories to tell, but why don't you refer? The problems are real. Abject poverty was there, inequality, corruption. But these were some ideas that they projected. I have not changed, no compromise on these things. We need to propel economic growth, yes. Everything that is necessary to be done to ensure that the country moves up. I mean, the transformation that has taken place here. I'm a great student of history and also political economy. And Turkey is one of the few countries that I try and learn and master. And I think no one in the right mind could dispute the fact, the massive transformation, education, infrastructure, health, that you have seen in Turkey. I don't believe that many countries can rival that achievement in terms of record. Now, yes, Islamic world needs reform. You know, what is the role of Muslim? Is always qudwa hasana, is an example. The Prophet is uswatun hasana. Okay, it is example. It's not why you preach or the beauty of the Quran, which we don't question, but it's an example. Why can't Muslim governments do right things, starting with good governance, with justice? And I believe in it. It's my conscience. I speak from the heart. I mean, I mean it. You see, why can't? I mean, what more do you need as a leader? You have all the paraphernalia of an opulence of office. You don't need to ask him. You just automatically. You know, I was Deputy Prime Minister for many years now. My wife is Deputy Prime Minister. Then suddenly you have guards, you have this, you have that. Everything is proper. You have driver, you have everything, you know. And you can't stop them. So, but why do you need then to be corrupt and ill-treat your people? Why are you afraid to surrender to the people to decide your future in a open, free elections that you are going to have here? I asked the president, how are you? Look at it. I say we are hoping for the best, but you know, the elections, people decide. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to hear. Dictators wouldn't say that. Dictators say, yes, people will decide, but I will win with 98.9. There's a joke about Iraq those days. I won't mention specifically. There was a voter. He went to vote. And then when he came back and told the parents, and the parents asked, whom do you vote for? Of course, we want change. We vote for the opposition. So the parents said, you are crazy. They will kill all of us. You know, I mean, you can't. You go back and change and correct your vote. So he went back to the polling station and told the election commission officer, sir, I voted, but I was confused. I was having bad headache, and I thought I made a mistake. What mistake? I voted for the opposition. So the election officer said, don't worry, we have corrected that for you. So That is the image of elections in a Muslim country. However bad it is in the West, it is not as bad as we have. You know, we have elections in Malaysia. You know, every day they attack us in the television. And not a word or response. We can't say anything. Luckily, we have social media. I mean, here you have the free media. I've seen so many writings. For ARC Party, against ARC Party. I mean, that's life. And you can go and campaign anywhere you like. There you can't. No premise. So we have to work somewhere in the near paddy fields, and people fall in the process. It's amazing. So these things need to change. But what do? Do we need to go and interfere? No. Do we need to go and send, but we need to show as an example. I believe if we can showcase as an example, we can do it because Islam is finally through bil amal. Istajibu lillahi walil rasul idha da'akum lima yuhyikum. Is saying what you believe in and actualizing the ideas by application and implementation, and not just getting to be too much anti this and anti that. I say this, but I tell you, I have an experience. I used the first day I was released, and that night when I spoke, because the king said to me, Anwar, I am giving you the full pardon, not because it is within my power. It is with my power, but not because of that. Because I believe from the beginning you were innocent. And there was a miscarriage of justice. And I want you. And he said, you can repeat what I say in your major speech tonight. So I repeated that. MashaAllah, you know, and you feel, so all the difficulties are erased. I says, min al-sijjin ila al-qasar, from the prison to the palace. In the next minute, 1 minute I was in prison, the next step I was there having lunch with the king. Oh, it's amazing. It's good enough. You see? Now, so I think your point about reform, it is a requirement, but we can. I mean, if as Malaysia and Turkey, like we try our level best, do our best. We have a lot of enemies. People don't like us. People want us to be like them. They are agents. We cannot. We continue, and I believe we can set a good example. Foreign policy, I may have fought against Mahathir for 2 decades, but foreign policy, we have little difference. Mahathir, like Tayyip Erdogan, very committed to support the Palestinian cause. Very strong in his views against atrocities inflicted in the Muslim world. Probably not same in all issues, but I think I would give him credit for that. We will continue to speak up, to defend what we see as gross injustice. So the foreign policy is quite similar.
Okay, we will have just one last question, very short, and then we have to finish. Okay, we combine, but then we finish. Okay, let's have this because we have
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Datosri, welcome to Istanbul. My name is Mehmet Özay. My question is about the domestic politics in Malaysia. Since the early years of your reformist movement, and including the other opposition parties, criticized UMNO-led Barisan Nasional as a dictating policies against the wish and will of the people of Malaysia. My question is, how could you transform the system? Because it is not just relevant to UMNO governments, but it is a systemic problem. Some of the power sharing based on the law of Federation of Malaysia. And the second question is, you are regarded as an icon of democracy, but we know that there is another icon of democracy in ASEAN countries like Suu Kyi in Myanmar. So after this significant change in Malaysia, how could Malaysia, and particularly you, as an icon of democracy, play a significant role to transform the democratization process in ASEAN? Thank you very much.
الدكتور طارق الزمر رئيس مركز حريات للدراسات السياسية. لمست في كلمة حضرتك انفعالا شديدا بتجربة السجن، وهذا ألمني جدا لأنني أيضا معتقل سابق، حيث قضيت 30 عاما في سجون حسني مبارك في مصر. ولهذا أنا أدعوك للتشارك معنا في تأسيس منظمة حقوقية كبرى تعتني بحقوق وحريات الشعوب في العالم العربي والإسلامي، لأنه من غير المعقول أن نواجه العالم في القرن ال21 بهذا الكم الهائل من الاعتقالات، وخاصة في العالم العربي، إلا إذا كنت تخشى من أن تعود إلى الاعتقال مرة أخرى. وشكرا.
ممكن مترجم يا أخي just briefly. You can do it because for the benefit of the audience a short مترجم كويس يا أخي.
نعم. أردت أن أقول أن حضرتك متأثر جدا بتجربة السجن، وهذا
ترجمة في اللغة إنجليزي و ممكن؟
Yeah, brother.
Yes, sir.
I was going to translate.
Yeah. All right, all right. Go ahead. They want.
I think the most important thing is that there is so much injustices, and some people at 10 plus years, some people 30 years, and so on. And this really necessitates for the Ummah that we should have an organization which will care to see that something done about this. I think this is the gist of it.
Thank you. You see, the first question regards on the issue, the domestic politics in Malaysia. I'll be very brief. You see, the former government is not considered to be democratic. How do you then, I'm not an icon. I mean, I'm just a fighter for freedom. Transform this. I think Dr. Mahathir is taking the necessary measures now, and I would grant that to him. But of course, the formal transformation will take some time. But what does it mean? It means a free media. It means judiciary that's independent. It means the enforcement authorities that are professional and ethical. It means also an economic policy that propel growth, but care for the people. Quality education, health, and housing, to me, are the parameters to judge a successful government. People judge only by the economic growth, etc., etc. But education, health, and public housing is, to me, also critical. Now, you mentioned Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi is an icon. I quite disagree. She was, and we supported her. And Aziza was very outspoken, and my wife was spoken in protecting. But when it comes to Rohingya, she was really, unfortunately, clearly irresponsible, and portrays an attitude either very weak or opportunistic. And this, I think, is reflective not only in Asia, but also in the West. She failed miserably to keep up her image as the so-called iconic in terms of freedom, but the prejudice against the Muslims and the minorities is so strong. I say this because, like in Turkey, we have minorities. When we took over in 2008 a state in Selangor, one province, the previous government, the Barisan Nasional UMNO, desegregated one 100-year-old Hindu temple. You know what we did? We said we have to rebuild, because that temple is 100 years old. Then when I was in India, when they were praising me, "Wow, Anwar, you did a great job, you defend the right of the Hindus," I said, "Good, you don't go and destroy a mosque in India." So this is what we call moral consistency. I cannot destroy Hindu temple in Malaysia and go to India to say, "No, protect the mosque in India." I can't. So there must be that sort of moral coherence and moral consistency. Now, so in ASEAN, I represent the view that we do not export our views. But of course, with social media, with the opportunity to speak in universities, that's why I think it's a good thing that I'm not Prime Minister. I have the freedom to say what I like. I'm invited all over ASEAN and the world. You know, the very known universities here and everywhere. So I think I will use that opportunity to speak my mind. If they think that I'm not helping, then they can bar me from speaking. I don't mind. If you allow me to speak, I speak my piece. Now, secondly is the issue of the Arab world. You see, this shows hypocrisy in the West. You see, those of us, let me say this, I am a firm believer of collaboration, exchange with the West. I used to teach at Georgetown University, I work with Brookings, I go with American Enterprise. It does not matter what ideological trend or itijahat that you represent. I believe in reason, discourse, and exchanges. Because I'm not here to dictate my policy, but I will not be dictated by your narrative. You see, if that is the position, then we should also use that opportunity to engage. But you talk about the Middle East, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, these problems. You can sense the hypocrisy in the West, a contradiction. Why can't, but when you say West, it's not totally fair, because West is not homogeneous. You know, I used to teach Georgetown University. The academics, the students were superb. You know, they take a lot of concern and appreciation. There's one university that during iftar, a professor is assigned to join the students every day, either Muslim or a non-Muslim professor, and given free iftar to encourage students to fast. So there are these views. And you are free to speak, to defend the Palestinian cause without any problems. But there are problems in other universities, which means it is not homogeneous. But there are in Muslim countries that you are only to speak on government service and nothing else. So I believe in exchange. I believe that we should voice out to defend the atrocities inflicted in the Arab countries. And people cannot be detained. Wallahi, ya akhi. You can't keep somebody 10 years, 20 years to rot in prison. You know, with the trials that you see, you can't. It makes us shameful as Muslims, talking about Islamic justice, Qala Allahu Ta'ala, and go to Umrah, and then go back to Hajj every year, and go to commit more crimes and squander more money. You can't have that. So what we can do is just to voice, but we have limitations. If we don't go to war, we have to speak our mind. And that's why we need also to have leaders who have the courage of conviction, leaders who have tenacity of purpose, leaders who think that, yes, I'm leading this country, but I want to represent the voice of conscience of this country. More important, not of this country, is what is right, what is honorable, and respect humanity of all religious creeds and racial minorities or majority. To be just, that's all that we ask for. And I think if this is the criteria, I don't think it's a major problem. In my appeal to the people like that, I mean, you may not like Anwar for different reasons. Some say, oh, because 40 years ago, he was involved in Islamic youth activity, which is quite Islamic. And his wife happens to be the first doctor in Malaysia that used a scarf. It becomes a sin, you know, to some of these liberals. Why? It's a crime because Aziza happens to be the first professional or Muslim who wears a scarf to go to work. Therefore, you have to be careful because they may cause danger in this country. So look, these are the problems that we face. But there's one view. But I can't complain. You know why? Because the majority of Chinese, non-Muslims, the majority of Hindus support us. They are not dictated by the few. So finally you realize you can trust what I call trust in the wisdom of the masses in a clean democratic process. May Allah guide and help us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
On behalf of SETA Foundation, we would like to thank His Excellency Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, and I would like to thank you for your participation. Thanks, and I hope we will see you again in another program. Thanks a lot.